Okay, just a real quick video just talking about drift, okay, genetic drift. Let's start with a quick summary though. So we've got this idea that allele frequencies can change, okay. You have a gene pool, which is what a population is, and the allele frequencies in a gene pool change. Okay, if they do change, right, then we call that evolution. Okay, that is evolution. Allele frequencies in a gene pool changing. Okay, now that can happen because of natural selection. Okay, so natural selection can cause this. So we've got it could be directional selection, could be disruptive, okay, could be stabilizing. But of course, if it's stabilizing, allele frequencies don't change, and so that's not evolution. It is natural selection, it's not evolutionary because it doesn't change. Allele frequencies remain constant. Okay, so natural selection. Directional, disruptive, and stabilizing. There's also, of course, to think about, you've got artificial selection. Let's go blue, right? Artificial selection, which is what we call it when we are the ones doing the selection, as though we're not part of biology for some reason. Okay, obviously, really, that's just another type of natural selection. It's just that the thing doing the selecting is us. It's kind of almost a secondary directional selection. We're selecting the phenotypes in our livestock, in our crops that benefit us. So that we call that artificial selection. Okay. Now, there is another thing that can change the allele frequencies in a gene pool, and that is drift. Okay, genetic drift. Okay, that can also change the alleles in a gene pool. There's a couple things here to notice. Okay, there's no reproductive isolation here. Okay, because reproductive isolation is about speciation. It's about taking one population and it becoming two different ones. From one ancestor, we get two different descendant populations. Okay, that could be undergoing directional selection or because of disruptive selection or whatever. Okay, evolution is just the change in the frequencies in a gene pool over time. So a population becomes a different species gradually over time. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about speciation. That's when we get this reproductive isolation. Okay, that leads to speciation in that case. We'll talk later about how a species becomes another species over time. All right. Anyway, genetic drift is another thing that can cause the allele frequencies in a gene pool to change. So another thing that can cause evolution. Okay, along with natural selection, which can change the allele frequencies, genetic drift can change the allele frequencies. Now, genetic drift, as it sounds like, is why is that one that way up? That's weird. Okay, drift is where there is no direction. Okay, so this is not directional selection. Not directional. In other words, there's no selection. It's chance. This is a chance event. Okay, you've got all these different organisms. okay? And, you know, a lot of them are just not going to make it. Bang, 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 bang. Right? That's the ones that survive. They then have offspring. That's their offspring. Again, competition, predation, disease, bam, 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 bam. That's the first population that survived. That's the second population that survived, second generation. They have offspring. Not everybody that fails to reproduce does so because their alleles weren't a good fit for the environment. Okay, some of them get hit by a bus. Okay, some of them got crushed in a landslide, right? Some of them just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? So some alleles disappear out of a population by chance, and then other alleles, this guy's, for example, that somehow managed to survive all these events, he is then going to be overrepresented in the next generation, right? It might be that he just happens to be in the right place at the right time. There's a bit of luck. He finds a bounty of food, and his offspring in the next generation are these guys. Okay, everybody else is leaving one or two offspring behind, but he's left four. So the alleles that this guy had have increased in frequency in the next generation. It's drift. Okay, it's just this one allele is increasing in frequency, and another allele is decreasing in frequency. Okay, this is happening all the time, but it's much more marked in small populations. Okay, in large populations, it doesn't make a fat lot of difference. All right, if I get hit by a bus, right, it's not really going to matter. I mean, I've had kids already. Let's say one of you get hit by a bus, right? You get hit by a bus. Sorry, you've been hit by a bus. Okay, it's a shame, but to be honest, have you got any alleles that nobody else has got? The animals that you've got are probably also owned by somebody else as well. Okay, other people possess those same alleles. So you've gone, that's a shame, but the alleles that were being possessed by you are in other individuals as well. However, if there's only a very small population to start with, okay, if all we've got, these guys here, boom, 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 that's it, okay, and this guy here is, I don't know, the only one with a particular allele, or these two are the only ones that have this particular allele, and they happen to get hit by a bus, well, then you've lost that allele. Okay, it's gone. All right. If there were 1 million of them and they got hit by the bus, I'm not going to draw $1 million, but if there were 1 million of them and they were part of the lot that got hit by the bus, well, it doesn't matter. There was this guy here, he had the allele as well. So this is all that drift is. It's this change in frequency that's not directed. It's drifting. Okay, and it's down to chance. It happens in all populations, but it is much more significant in small populations. Okay. Two terms that you're going to find often when you're reading about small populations are founder and bottleneck. These are the two classic scenarios when you've got a small population. A founder, like the founding fathers that supposedly, got America started on the path it's on now. There was a perfectly healthy community of people living there before they arrived, but anyway, never mind. So here is this is Europe, people in Europe, and then a little smattering of them, pilgrims or whatever, went over to the States, and then they were the founding fathers. Okay, I mean that's not quite the history of it, but you know what I mean, right? So then, they are a founder population, okay, and then a bottleneck population, as I've said a couple of times now, is where you've got this large group of organisms, and then disaster strikes, and a tiny, tiny number is left over. Okay, we've done this a lot. Do you know what elephant seals are? Great big ugly seals that sort of have that great big nose. Have a look, Google them, elephant seals. Elephant seals. Oh, flipper, my God, that's a terrible drawing. But anyway, it's late at night. The elephant seals, go and Google them. They're a weird looking bunch. And they went through a bottleneck. We nearly hunted them to extinction. Okay, so there's just a few of them left. So genetic drift becomes much more important in these populations, in these little populations of like elephant seals where they got almost wiped out and there was just a few left. They went through a bottleneck, or in a found population, the Amish, which are a religious order in the States. They're a good example of genetic drift. There is a condition called polydactyly where you have an extra finger, and it just so happened that one of the people in that initial group of Amish that went to the States had that mutation, had that allele, and then they've been very successful, and there's a lot of Amish in the States now, but that particular mutation is far more common in the Amish in the States than it is in the rest of the world, because that one individual who had a very low frequency of that allele in the global population was one of the ones in the founder population. Okay, and then, it's not that particular mutation spread through the Amish. The proportion in the Amish now is the same as it was back then, but it's just that in there it was higher. So this genetic drift has occurred in this founder population of the Amish in America. Okay.